Ahoy everyone, Tightrope here. In this video we're diving into the US Forces and Wehrmacht balance changes that arrived in the 2.2 patch for Company COH3. Moving on to the US Forces changes now, and we're starting out in the barracks. The grenade package has been reduced in cost down to just 10 fuel. So previously I tended to skip ticking grenades to try and get my Greyhound out earlier, but I think with just a cost of 10 I would be going for it up against previous patch. If you're up against the early 250 Anna-Kreutzschützen and get 10 fuel, it's definitely worth that slight delay just to be able to fend off those ultralights in the early game much more effectively. The Scouts utility package is now locked behind your first support center upgrade. So you're not going to be able to get the flares out super early on or smoke to counter your opponent's machine guns. Going to give enemy machine guns a bit more time to breathe in those first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. Riflemen have received a handful of changes in this patch. First off, they had their manpower cost actually increased by 10, so a slight nerf there, but in exchange for that, they've got a big buff to the DPS curve right across the range. So we've got the old values in blue, new values in red, and you can see up close it's just a minuscule buff. It's just all on the squad leader's Thompson. Just got a minuscule buff in close quarters. The Garand didn't change there. But then at mid-range, you got an extra 3-ish DPS. Long range kind of maintains that, about 3 more DPS, which long range adds up to about, I think it's 47% more DPS. So that's a pretty sizable buff at their max range for just, the raw performance of Riflemen. And a lot of that DPS is actually on rate of fire, not accuracy. You can see rounds per minute 16, previously at long range. Now it's 22. So that means they'll be shooting more rounds. And that means they'll be better against light vehicles in mid to long range as well, because they're spitting out more bullets. You don't need accuracy to hit light vehicles with small arms damage. You're always going to hit them because they're so big. You want rate of fire. So this will help you fight back against the DAC ultralight vehicles in the mid to long range kind of skirmishes. You'll be spitting out more bullets and doing more damage to them. But wait, that's not all. The bar has also been buffed. Old values in blue, new values in red. You can see it's taken an ever so slight hit in the mid-range, just a slight little tickle downwards, but then in the long range it's been massively buffed, not nearly as much of a drop-off, so that now it's doing over twice the DPS that it used to be. So the developer said they wanted you to have more engagement options rather than always having to charge face first into the enemy. Now with Riflemen having better long-range capabilities, especially if you've got the cover advantage long range, you're sitting pretty behind some heavy cover. You've got the option of just sitting there and doing okay damage to the enemy. You don't always have to charge at them to be able to force the enemy off at a relevant time period. And of course, Rangers can also get their bar through their weapon crate drops. So I've manually added in their heavy weapon training buff. I think it's 17 or 19%. I can't remember exactly. But here it is compared to Thompson. And it's kind of looking quite appealing. I could imagine myself equipping bars on my Rangers rather happily now, especially if you're planning to go for the, I forgot what it's called, specialist training, where the bar gets suppression on your Rangers. Then, yeah, I mean, look at that. The Thompsons aren't doing anything from 17 range onwards. Bar's looking pretty nice. And there has been a ninja buff to SSF commandos that was not mentioned in the patch notes. A few patches back, they made the SSF Commando Garand largely identical to the Rifleman Garand. So now with the Rifleman Garand getting buffed, they've also kind of buffed the SSF Commando Garand at the same time. So this is just the 4 Garands versus the 4 Grands. You can see, they've got the same kind of buff that we saw from Rifleman. And just for comparison, the SSF Commando Garand in red versus the Rifleman Garand in blue, SSF one has a slightly higher rate of fire. SSF Commandos felt pretty good to me last patch, so I'm a bit surprised they're getting buffed. The Captain's Vet 1 ability marked vehicle has been nerfed. The 25% damage bonus that used to apply has been removed. So previously it was very good. I do agree it was probably due a nerf. It was actually better than the marked vehicle you got from Spec Ops. But I do also feel like it was kind of necessary in the last patch to help you deal with heavy tanks. Because USF and Wehrmacht don't have the big boy anti-tank guns. They do sometimes struggle against heavy tanks, but maybe that will be solved this patch with the buffs to medium tank veterancy that we saw. The 4x4 has been buffed this patch. It's had a manpower cost increase by 20, but in exchange for that, it's got 20 more health and way more penetration, about 0.5 more at all ranges. So let's see how this goes. We've got a bunch of its most common opponents, Kreuzschützens and 250s. Let's see how it goes. Kind of mid-range, 25-ish range. It did. This patch, the 250 did get a armor reduction of 0.5 on the front. Worth mentioning. Yeah, so it dumps on the Kreuzschützen. Did last patch as well. Bit more competitive, but 4x4 still losing to the 250 in the straight up head-to-head. Though it is, of course, fast, it can choose to engage in the 250 or drive away with, you know, maybe third to a quarter health on the 250 remaining. There's also been a change to the 4x4's self-repair ability, and this applies to the normal one and the juiced up one that you get by going for a resupply platform at Vet 1. Now, if you get attacked while you're self-repairing, it'll get interrupted and the ability's over. You have to wait for the cooldown. So you want to do this out the back. You won't want to do this in combat. It's the same story for, as I said, the advanced self-repair. That can also get cancelled. So yeah, previously players were kind of like abusing this with the Vet 1, using to soak a crazy amount of damage in the early game, driving around in combat being really annoying with it. No longer going to be the case. And this applies to quite a few different self-repair abilities. They are going to get interrupted by combat. On the M3, the 75mm upgrade has come down in the time it takes to complete. Used to be 40 seconds, now it's 30 seconds. I think they just nerfed it up to 40 seconds like last patch or something like that, so humming and hawing, but they left the quad at 40 seconds. The Greyhound has had its AoE damage buffed, so it's still got the same size circle, but it will be doing more damage right the way from the center out to the edge. I thought the Greyhound was pretty decent last patch. I'm a little bit surprised by this, and if you really wanted to wipe something, I feel like that's where the Vet 1 canister shot came online. But alright, we also had a Vet requirement reduction, just a very, very slight tickle downwards. So let's see how it does against this clumped up squad. Yeah, to me, it kind of felt like the Greyhound's problem was maybe a bit more on the scatter side. Maybe a little bit inconsistent compared to maybe something like the 8 Rad. It's a bit more accuracy based, won't collide into objects as often, especially when like chasing through different terrain. Can't really tell a huge difference here if I'm honest. The Chaffee has received a couple changes in this patch. First off, it's got a new upgrade called Recon Mode, which costs 50 munitions. And then that allows you to toggle on and out of this Recon Mode, which gives you plus 25 vision range. So here we are currently. Goes all the way out to there. What's that, like a bit beyond 55 range? That's pretty good. But as you can see, you can't disable it for 15 seconds after enabling it. And during this time, the main gun doesn't work. The smoke shell doesn't work. You can't even like activate it. So yeah, you will be susceptible if you're using recon mode. You get rushed right when you activate it. You're going to be in some trouble. On top of that, the Chaffee got a slight reload rate buff and a bunch of mobility bonuses to accel, decel, pivot and rotation rate. This thing's like pretty damn zippy now. Even with, you know, COH3's slightly awkward pathfinding, this thing's still like very, very nimble. Relic made some changes to the armored battle group that we'll look at shortly. I think that's why Relic had the confidence to buff the Greyhound and the Chaffee without worrying it devolved back into like insane like vehicle spam for the entire game. In the tank depot, the 76mm Sherman upgrade has had a cost reduction by 25 manpower and 10 fuel, but it's also had a performance reduction. Its AoE damage has been nerfed to be identical to the regular Sherman, and it's also had its scatter nerfed as well. So, you know, that will negatively affect it against infantry mainly, but the scatter nerf will probably also affect it a little bit against vehicles. Relic said they wanted more space for the bulldozer Sherman in the US Army instead of just the late game always devolving into 76mm Sherman spam. But the Easy 8 hasn't been touched by any of this. It's still really, really good, and this really like stretches the gap between the 76mm Sherman and the Easy 8 even further. This thing is still the absolute king of the mediums. Moving on to the US Forces battle group changes, and we're starting out with the Advanced Infantry Assault. It now costs 25 more munitions to bring it in. commonly referred to as Rent-a-Bob. This has been tougher to deal with since the bazooka models are now on prioritized vehicles these days, so you can't just like get one machine gun, suppress the whole blob super easily. Quite often the anti-infantry and anti-tank portions kind of get spread apart. It has been making it harder to deal with, so I think this is, you know, good change. And there was a bug fix in the patch notes mentioned where they added moving scatter penalties to certain weapons, specifically Ranger bazookas. So when Rangers are firing bazookas on the move, they've now got 25% more scatter. So let's see how that goes. See if we can nose more misses. Not really. 25% scatter, you know, this doesn't change the accuracy or anything. Still look like they're pretty good. The Pershing has had its top speed nerfed by 0.55 and its rotation and pivot rate reduced as well. Pershing has been dominating 1v1s. I would guess like once a player got the Pershing out, the chance to win was probably like 85% after that. It was just so strong in 1v1s because it's so fast. Medium tanks couldn't get away from it like at all. Infantry would always get chased down and wiped on retreat. Really, really good in 1v1 where there's a bit more room for it to use its maneuverability. So let's see how the Pershing compares to some of its most common enemies. You can see the Panzer III is a little bit faster than the Pershing now. Panzer IV still a little bit slower, and the Werwolves a tiny bit faster as well. Tiger is way, way slower. So you're still going to be able to chase mediums pretty effectively, especially like these ones, but the Panzer III should have a bit more space, which is good because in the previous patch, Panzer III just got dominated by the Pershing. Even with all the health upgrades, Pershing will be able to like 3-shot it. You couldn't get away. It was a nightmare to deal with. In the Special Operations Battlegroup, Assault Operation has been changed. It used to give minus 30% to received accuracy, which made your infantry way better against small arms damage. You take a lot less damage because that hit you a lot less often with small arms, but didn't offer any protection against like explosives or flame damage. So now it's been changed. The actual number has been reduced down to 15%, but it's received damage. So all sources, probably good if you want to use your like SSF commandos on bazooka mode, fighting against like tanks and stuff. They're going to be more durable once you pop this. And that brings us on to the biggest balance offender in the previous patch, the Sherman Whizbang. It has been nerfed. You see its health has been reduced by 120, so it will be, you know, one shot faster to kill from most damage sources. I wanted to see how this worked with the Vet 1 Jettison. So you just pop back up to the normal Sherman 720 health. Here we are on half health, Jettison. And it just, yeah, it gives you half health of the regular Sherman. So whatever proportion of health you're on, you switch over the Sherman 720. So, you know, maybe it could be an idea if you're playing to jettison, repair it up while it's still in Whizbang mode, because you have less health to repair up, then jettison. You know, you don't have to repair that extra 120-ish health. The other Vet 1 ability on the Whizbang, the long-range rocket barrage, has now been locked behind a similar cooldown system to the Walking Stuka's secondary barrage. So we'll see how that goes here. Just going to go for the regular barrage here. And then now that's on a 76-second cooldown. That's been reduced slightly by the Vet 1 bonus. And we've got the long-range barrage here. Now both of them are on a 30-second cooldown. So it kind of maybe encourages you to like spam the long-range rocket barrage since it's got a much shorter cooldown, but it does have immunity cost attached to it. So they're not like very independent really. It's a bit of an awkward system. Like after this change, the Walking Stuka's secondary barely saw any play. You may also have noticed like the long-range barrage a little bit different in its implementation than before. Previously, it was very common for like the first rocket to land like way off target, like maybe 10 range away from where you actually targeted on spot, but it seems like they've fixed that bug now. And they also mentioned that you should no longer be able to shoot through buildings with the Whizbang's rockets. So let's see how that goes. Nope. but they said that the long-range barrage should try to go over buildings, so let's see how that goes. I'm a little bit too close to it there, I think. Yeah, okay, there it is. So if you ram right up against a building, it's going to collide, but it will try to shoot over the building. So the Whizbang definitely due a nerf, and I think this is a pretty safe place to start. You know, locking the secondary barrage, so it's not just like a constant stream of rockets anymore. But I do think it might be kind of difficult to use the main barrage with its super low angle on some maps. Maps with a lot of buildings like Mignano Gap, or a lot of elevation that has like walls where the rockets are going to collide into them. You might have to like specifically drive your Sherman to certain spots so the rockets can actually land on the enemy, not on terrain. The Armored Battlegroup has received a large overhaul in this patch. A lot of the abilities have switched positions, and the performance of quite a few things have been changed as well. So taking a look at the new layout now, you can see you can no longer get veteran crews immediately. It's locked behind one command point. That's been swapped positions with field repairs, as well as that the recovery vehicle is now at the end of the tree competing with the Scott, which is moved. Used to be on this side of the tree, now it's on this side. So these two are competing with each other. In terms of command points, if you want to rush the Scott out, still the same timing of arrival. But if you want to rush the recovery vehicle out, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you did, it would be coming in quite a lot later. Then on the other side of the tree, same start, but in the middle it's just seek and destroy. It's come down in command point cost by 1 as well. And then at the end of the tree, War Machine used to be on this side. Now it's competing with Easy 8. There's no longer an Easy 8 call-in, Easy 8 production only. So you can only get one or the other of these. So yeah, big changes to the Armored Battlegroup. Has kind of been like, say, maybe the dominant battle group for most of COH3's history, at least in terms of 1v1. Field repairs has been changed. Used to pop it and would repair all of your damaged vehicles that were out of combat. Now it's much cheaper, but you can only target one vehicle at a time with it. So I'm going to use it on my teammates' vehicles. That's a new change. You can use it on your teammates. Do some, team utility, and it says it only lasts for 20 seconds, but as we see on the timer there, it's definitely lasting for 45 seconds. So if it was according to the text, it would only be 400 health, which for 35 munitions is not that impressive, but for 45 seconds, I mean, that's even going to repair this Grant, like from 1 health, I think, back up to full, and that is pretty reasonable then. The cooldown on the Scott's high explosive barrage has come down by 15 seconds. Alright, I think one of the streams the developers said this is a unit they're keeping their eye on and maybe in line for changes down the road. So now that Easy 8 production competes with the War Machine discount, they've decided to discount the Easy 8 directly, which is, I think, a bit of a strange choice. Now it's down to 375 manpower, 105 fuel, comparing that just like to a normal Sherman. 15 more fuel, not very much more manpower. Comparing that to like a Panzer IV, the Easy 8 is way better than the Panzer IV, way better, and it's barely more expensive now. There's a bit of a strange choice on that, and obviously you can get the strength and steel discount as well, making the population cost on this go way down. So I don't think that was a very good idea, especially when you consider that they've actually buffed up the machine guns on the Easy 8 to have the same machine guns that the other Sherman tanks have. And we'll see how that goes here. I go up against a couple of Peregrine squads at various ranges. And remember, the Easy 8 didn't get the nerfs to its main gun anti-infantry performance like the 76mm Sherman did. So now it's got super machine guns and it's super cheap. I could definitely imagine the Easy 8 being a problem in the upcoming patch. Moving on to the Wehrmacht changes now, and we're starting out with transfer orders. The most immediate difference you can probably see is that now transfer orders is on the left-hand side of the screen, kind of in the same place as the DAC call-ins, rather than being located in the Tier 1 tech. So I'm not really a big fan of this because transfer orders not a very common thing, not something you need to do like really quickly, and it already had a perfectly good home in the Tier 1 tech. what's the point in it taking up screen real estate for the entire match? It just doesn't make sense to me. But the more important change to transfer orders, now it brings across the experience that the Grenadier had. So I'm going to give this Grenadier exactly 750 experience, which is how much it takes to get to Vet 1. Then I'm going to transfer it. Now a P-Gren to get Vet 1 takes 1,000 experience. So by transferring it, I'm not going to get an immediate Vet 1 P-Gren back. But I'm going to get a P-Gren with 750 experience, how much experience the Grenadier actually had. So this kind of like increases the value of infantry officers' quarters, because now it benefits you like early on your Grenadiers, and then it also benefits you onto whatever you transfer them into. It's still going to be a price premium though, because, you know, Grenadiers do cost 260 manpower, transferring is 160, whereas a P-Gren's only 340 to build, so it's an 80 manpower premium to do the transfer. But certainly by transferring over the experience, you know, you don't feel quite so bad maybe doing it in the later stages of the game. There is something a bit weird about transfer orders though, when combined up with the officers' quarters on that second or third tech structure. So you can see I don't have officers' quarters yet. Do the transfer on a Vet 3 Grenadier. This Grenadier has the exact amount of experience to hit Vet 3. This is the P-Gren that comes out. You see 1,500 experience short of Vet 3. But if I go for officers' quarters, then do the transfer, the Panzer Grenadier comes out fully at Vet 3. Now I know this gives you plus 25% veterancy, but if you do the numbers, I think strictly the Panzer Grenadier that you get after this is completed should be Vet 2, maybe I think like 400 experience short of Vet 3. So there's something a little bit weird going on there with the officers' quarters. Oh, and the cooldown of transfer orders is now 2 minutes. So after you got your squad out, you can't do another one for another 2 minutes. Used to be only 60 seconds. Overall, I'm happy with the transfer orders change because, yeah, nobody had really been using it for most of the game's history, which is a shame. And it kind of had to go one way, right? Either you bring across the experience or you make it cheaper. So they went with the experience, and I do think it's the right call to maybe give you more options throughout the entire course of the game, not just in the first like 10-ish minutes. The Kettenkrad now has access to its trip flare and shoe mine with one click. You don't have to go through an extra build menu. Grenadiers have had a slight buff to their long range DPS. New values in red or values in blue works out to be about 9% more at absolute max range. Though do remember, Riflemen got their long range buffed in this patch, so yeah, Grenadiers still don't have a very good matchup with Riflemen at just about any range. And if you've upgraded the Grenadiers with the MP40s through the Breakthrough Battlegroup, now the Grenade Assault is 10 munitions cheaper, which I think is fair enough because it was a little bit underwhelming. The individual grenades you get from it are quite a lot weaker than, say, the Grenade Assault from Stormtrooper, and you know, Grenadiers is kind of squishy. Usually 1 or 2 models will be missing from your squad by the time you're in range to use this as well, so I do think that is a fine change. The MG42 has had its build time reduced by 5 seconds, so now it's exactly the same as the Grenadiers build time. Also, its white phosphorus rounds, the Vet 1 ability, now lasts for twice as long, going from 30 up to 60 seconds. And, you know, some of these abilities you maybe expect as the team weapon tears down for them to become cancelled, but that's not the case with white phosphorus rounds. You can keep it going, move the machine gun around, reposition it, and keep shooting. So you do have plenty of opportunities to use that full 60 seconds on the MG42. One maybe quality of life change that it could make, because this is the case and because it doesn't get cancelled, is maybe you could activate it before the team is set up. I don't know if that's like a problem with their coding, but it would be nice if maybe you could activate it now, like as the weapon's setting up, so that you just don't have to do that extra step, wait for the machine gun to set up before clicking this. Jagers have been changed again. Their health has gone back up to 110 per model. I don't really have strong opinions on this, but I guess with Riflemen getting buffed this patch, maybe if this hadn't have happened, they would have looked a bit weak. The Luftwaffe relay point has had its build cost reduced by 25 manpower. Probably fair enough, you hardly ever see these, like very occasionally in Luftwaffe spam strats and 4v4s, but could be a bit more viable. The Terror Battlegroup has received a handful of changes. Machine gun camouflage is now locked behind one command point, so you won't be able to get it immediately at the start of the game. Developers said they wanted heavy gunnery to get some more play. And yeah, I think the problem with heavy gunnery kind of needs like one more thing. Like maybe if it gave the machine gun plus 10% accuracy for the duration as well as suppression, they would probably maybe put it over the top. But we'll probably receive some selections just because it will help you hit the king target faster. And, you know, machine gun camouflage is extremely strong, so I think this is fine. No quarter, the buff range used to have to be within 18 range of suppressed infantry. Now it's 25, so it's just going to be easier to trigger that. Jericho trumpet has been buffed and now provides vision of the area for the duration of the ability. So it lasts for 45 seconds, and you can see that's a good chunk of sight. A 50 radius, which is actually like this, roughly the same as the one for US airborne recon loiter. This is more expensive, 90 munitions versus 50, and it's not quite identical because the US one plane, as it circles around, also provides a cone of vision, which the Jericho trumpet planes do not. They just reveal the area. And the US one seems to go maybe 15 range beyond its circle indication. But either way, like, this is a big buff. Jericho trumpet has been very unpopular. Like, during launch, it used to provide the speed debuff to retreating units as well, and that was obviously very broken. But they got patched out pretty quickly, and after that, it hasn't seen much use. So this is going to be pretty handy. And then you've got the option as well, where it's going to be expensive, but if you need sight, you can go like Jericho trumpet for vision into V1 rocket strike to like knock out a BL 5.5 out the back of the field. Oh, and a side note for the US Forces Recon Loiter, it would be nice if it was updated with white text describing what it does, like the Jericho trumpet does, like how long it lasts for. That would be good. In the Breakthrough Battlegroup, the 2.5-ton cargo truck has been buffed, which is good because it's seen very little play for all of COH3's history. So first off, it's had a manpower cost reduction by 50, so now it's cheaper than a cash, so that gives you one more reason to get it. They also said that it doesn't have a population cost tied to it anymore, but as we can see, I've only got 4 cargo trucks in my army, that's it. And they're taking up 12 populations, so they've mucked something up there, unfortunately. They also say they've made it similar to caches, scale with each point. So if you do it on a low point in the resource mode, see I've got plus 18 fuel at the moment. I get plus 3 from a low. I'm on plus 21 at the moment. I get plus 5 from medium. So, you know, it kind of encourages you to put these cargo trucks on higher resource points to generate more resources. On top of that, they've added a new mode for the cargo truck where apparently if you put them on a victory point, they will generate resources of every type. So it's kind of curious how this works. You see that this victory point is actually inside of a high territory, so I just want to see if this is going to work. So that gives me plus 5 muni, plus 5 fuel, and plus 20 manpower. Yep, that's another change. Similar to caches, you can put this on a strategic point now, and it will generate more manpower over time. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons to use the 2.5-ton cargo truck. This has gone from complete dumpster, and once they fix the population cost, I think this is actually going to be very good. In the Italian Coastal Battlegroup, designated artillery Overwatch now does 75% less damage to bunkers. So I hadn't heard about it until now, but I guess some players were countering this ability by, when they saw this activated on a bunker, they'd like zip in to close range, maybe with something like a jeep, draw the fire of the artillery, and then the friendly fire would end up like killing the bunker. So, I mean, it's still going to chip away at the bunker a little bit, but it's not going to be nearly as strong as it used to be. I thought, okay, maybe this could now work against something like the Obice, because the Obice's an emplacement, not a bunker, I think. But it doesn't look like it can do any damage to the Obice. The artillery officer's artillery Overwatch ability has been buffed. I believe the idea here is for the first wave of shells to arrive after a similar delay, but then for the subsequent wave of shells to start coming down a little bit faster. So if the player doesn't dodge, they'll get punished harder. So let's see how it goes against this machine gun.
Requesting all guns. Fire for effect.
mean, it looks pretty reasonable. There's one thing about the artillery officer, though, that I would also like changed. He's got a unique weapon, this Beretta here, the officer model, and I believe this escaped all the DPS changes that happened back in patch 1.7 and the subsequent changes. So the DPS of the artillery officer, I know it's not the focus of it, but it's kind of been left in the dust because one of the 4 models is trash. So it'd be nice if this guy could see, what was it, like a 15 to 25%-ish accuracy buff or whatever, so that this is a bit more respectable. So with changes to Riflemen, grenades, bars, and the 4x4, barracks builds are going to be a lot stronger against DAC, at least the style of DAC that was most popular last patch, and the Whizbang has been nerfed, thank the heavens. When it comes to Wehrmacht transfer orders, finally worth using, that's a nice change. And I do want to say that there seems to be more changes in this patch than there have been in a lot of the previous patches that have released alongside the DLC drops. And I'm guessing that's the influence of having Fergie and Dumais in the team. They're able to make more wider ranging changes more rapidly, so that is good to see. If you're enjoying these patch breakdowns, I hope you consider coming on board as a Patreon backer.